All right, there we go.
There we go.
All right, Dante Tyler, former bomber, former track star at Eastern Washington, former ASEWU president, and the list goes on and on. Current law student. Thank you so much for joining us today, taking the time out of your schedule to talk to us. My sports literature class. How we doing?
I'm doing well. I'm surviving. Trying to just stay healthy. Trying to stay updated on the news without getting infuriated about how people are reacting to all of it. But it's human nature to react to uncertain times in our own unique ways. So
very good. All right, so just so you know, the purpose of this interview is to kind of get the story behind the student athlete. A lot of people see like if I take example like college football, you see game day, but there's so much more in depth to that happens, and that's what I'm going to be asking you about today, probably from your starting experiences all the way to the opportunities that it's opened up for you now. So when did you first find out that you're going to be competing at a collegiate level? Like what was going through your mind? What was your reaction? Go ahead and fill us in on that story.
Yes, so that's interesting because I remember, so I'll go back to being a bomber. I remember I was out on the track. It was like right before state for track. So I think I had just finished regionals. And I had gone, I had my coach Marcina, she was there. She had watched me throw, but she couldn't talk to me because she wasn't allowed to talk to me at the meet. But, she saw me throw. I threw my PR at that meet. And I went back home and I was like, I hadn't heard from Eastern for a while. And I got accepted into UW, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to UW, be a regular student, focus on my academics. And I remember I got a phone call from Eastern, and they're like, are you still coming here? And I said, no, I'm not coming there that day. And I was just out of track practice. And then I got home that night and I was, just in my living room, and Marcina calls me. And so she had no idea that interaction happened earlier that day. And it was like, hey, I really want you to come to Eastern. I want you to come compete with us. I want you to come throw. And I was like, you know what? Yes, I'll do it. I just was like, I was so impassioned by track and field. I was really loving it. And I was like, let's do it. And so I gave up going to UW and I went to Eastern, and, it was a really, really great decision.
So when you actually first started competing, like you said, you got the Eastern, it was a great decision. You had a great coach that obviously she really wanted you there. Okay. What was really the first big difference that you noticed once you started competing on that college level? And what I mean is like, there's obviously there's more talents as far as the athletic playing field, but what was one of the things, you're suited up, you're ready for that first meet or your first workout? What was it, the very first difference that you noticed at that collegiate level?
So I guess I'll talk about the first workout because that was the most biggest difference. So our first workout was we were going to the weight room. And so we show up, people are talking, but not really talking very much. I thought everybody was so serious. Like I was like, what am I getting into? And mind you, the freshmen don't show up for first practice for like the first 2 weeks. So I had just got done with my first 2 weeks of college, which were amazing. I mean, I made some of the best friends, and I was like, you know what? I could just, hang out with these people and not ever have to, do sports again. But then I got into that weight room, and our weight coach has us go and just lay down, and he tells us to breathe, like just to do breathing. And I was like, I forgot how to breathe. I will tell you, I did not know what I was doing. I was like, I don't belong here. All these people are so much better than me. I don't know what I'm doing. Turns out all these people are equally as much of a goofball as I am, if not more, probably more, to be honest. And that they're not taking it. I mean, they take it seriously, but they don't take it so seriously that you're going to die. And the workouts, while being hard, they're always tailored to you. So you were never doing something that was impossible. I thought I was going to get in there and they're going to be like, squat 500 pounds, bench press 400, and you'll die. And I was like, No, they always made sure it was tailored to you. They would test you and they'd push you to your limits, not to whatever limits they thought you should be at.
What were some of the unexpected challenges that arose? Like you said, you started competing, you started working out, and this could be on the competition field, or this could be, in life, in time management. So, what was some of the unexpected challenges that arose during your time as a student athlete?
Well, so freshman year I didn't work. I was very much just, it was track in school, and I found I had so much time. I had so much time. It was great. I mean, to go back to freshman year of college would be an amazing experience. But sophomore through senior year, I was working the whole time. I was a community advisor, which is the person in charge of their floor. Um, in the residence hall. Then I was our multicultural coach, and then I was our student body president. And those were all gigs that were time consuming, flexible, so I could still be a student athlete. But I just found myself, I didn't have all the time in the world to socialize. I guess I didn't really need it because too much time was also ridiculous. Um, but it was definitely an interesting experience trying to learn how to time manage. And I think that was a thing that, even right now it's helping me in law school, because I'm like, oh, well, this is nothing compared to what I was doing. So.
Nice. Yeah, that kind of leads us into a different question. I'm going to skip
Mhm.
down a few, but so what were some of those skills that transpired from, the skills that you learned as an athlete? How did those transpire into I don't want to say the real world, but I mean after sports world?
Yeah. I think there's a few things. One is you learn how to communicate with people you don't get along with. You're gonna get into your sport, and you're gonna find people you just don't get along with. That happens. It's you already have that. Anybody out there that's a student athlete, you already know there's people on your team you just don't get along with, but you're a team. It doesn't really matter if you get along with them or not. You have to realize that you're gonna be working with them day in, day out, and you can either just be at odds with them, or you can learn to coexist and hopefully build some sort of friendship. And that's something that's important in any work field. And that's something my coach told me. Even no matter how terrible or bad somebody is, you're working with them, and unless you're going to get them fired, which you probably don't have that much power, you have to learn how to coexist. And when you get into a career that you're going to be working there for 30 years, and that person's going to be working there for 30 years, you can be at each other's throats all that time, ruining all the great experiences you could have. Or you can just enjoy and try to find happiness and solace. I think that's just something that everybody needs to try to learn to get better at. It's a hard skill, and it takes a lot of optimism, and it takes a lot of self-development. And I think even you and me to this day are still working on trying to do that better.
Yeah. Well, I work with my older brother, so what does that tell
Oh.
you? All right. So, considering the larger audience,
Mhm.
the abundance of skilled athletes on the field, and throwing all the college studies and all the extra duties that you took on into the mix, okay, what goes through your mind when you're handling the pressure that comes with being a student athlete?
Well, I think that depends on where I'm at in the day. If I'm at practice, it's about trying to get rid of all the, hey, Jim Qualheim, look at you throwing me a surprise like that. Uh, um, if you don't know, Jim Qualheim was my mentor in both making me a student athlete and making me the student leader that I am today. Also, Qualheim, I just got elected into law school student government just last week. So you are muted, by the way, if you don't know.
There you go. Well, good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. But no, so I think at practice is about trying to let go of everything in your day, kind of, be at one with yourself and just put yourself in the motions, not trying to be frustrated about any of your competitions in the past or your school or relationships, but trying to be within that moment of trying to better improve, especially in track. I mean, there's a lot of, I did football and basketball also in high school. And I think football and basketball, it's a lot easier just to be like, I'm in this moment. But track, there's so much alone time. It's so self included that it can be so easy to make all of that a part of you. But instead you have to realize it's still a sport that you just have to focus on the movements, the actions, that mental game is the biggest thing. But then when you get into competition, it's completely different because it's all a mental game. You know, you're going against other athletes who are there to try to mess with you. I know so many athletes that a lot of their game is to get into your head and throw you off, especially for throws, where they'll just be like, "Oh yeah, I know you choked that one meet, but you got it this one," and stuff like that. And it's about trying to just be like, "Nope, that's me." And it's even stranger when you're competing against your own teammates who know exactly how to get onto you, especially when it's that big meet where they are trying to win as much as you. And even in college, you're competing for scholarships sometimes, and that's something that's so strange that, you know, the difference between one throw and another throw could be thousands and thousands of dollars to your education. So
Yeah, definitely pressure, definitely mental game is a challenge. But as somebody who has many different hats, a former ASEWU president, multicultural club, I believe the mock trial and the United Nations, you got all these different hats you wear, okay? And now current law student, what was would you say the one most greatest challenge that you had? Even up to today, it could be a current challenge. It could be a one situation or an ongoing challenge that you've had to face.
um you know, I think that's, well, you know, there's personal things like, you know, family, which is always going to be a tough one, you know, dealing with, you know, sicknesses and stuff like that, to girlfriends, or, you know, relationships. Those, you know, it seems so small, but those can really be a huge toll on your life. And that's not me trying to say don't have a girlfriend or boyfriend, because I have heard people go with that. But, you know, those are rewarding into themselves and they can be really helpful, but they can also be really destructive. And so learning how to be good with yourself, is really important. And the mental health, that's something that I've had to deal with my whole life. I've had, you know, really hard mental health issues. And trying to learn, especially in like this pandemic, I think a lot of people are realizing that they're keeping themselves busy constantly so they didn't have to deal with it. And then now look at us, we're stuck with it constantly. So without those skills, you know, one thing I advocate for is, you know, learning how to be with yourself. Meditation can be helpful for some people, it also can be terrible for others. But, you know, finding what makes you tick better and trying not to be so reliant on other people. If you can be happy with yourself, anybody else is just bonus.
Sound mind and sound body are
Yeah,
definitely hand in hand. I agree with you
for
100%.
sure.
One thing I've changed in my coaching recently was I never used to do yoga. You know, I would have,
uh,
okay, you know, like weightlifting, conditioning. Now I throw that yoga. That, I mean, it's stretching, yeah, but really that mental aspect of, okay, taking deep breaths. Yes, I agree with you 100% on that one. Okay, so this is a spectator sport. Like I said, there's a lot of people that watch on TV what's happening, but they don't see what's happening behind the scenes. What do people not see? So in other words, how would you describe the lifestyle of a student athlete?
I mean, for especially for, so it changes from sport to sport. You know, for football, they're just constantly with each other. They're just, and same thing with basketball. Those teams are just constant. And you know, I'd say a lot of student athletes are just constantly with each other as a team, for better or for worse. You know, that was something that we try to advocate to get other student athletes to hang out with other student athletes. Because track athletes, we're already split among each other, and we're like, you know what, hanging out with this person is the same as hanging out with this person. Me as a thrower has nothing to do with being a sprinter, or, you know, so we're already used to hanging out with whoever. Um, so that's one thing, is just that aspect of, it seems like we're in isolation, but we're just hanging out with the people that are most like ourselves. Another aspect is just a lot of track athletes and a lot of athletes that are in like tennis or golf, you know, they're working a job while they're doing track, and, you know, they're also working on their grades. Um, And grades are really important for a lot of us. And a lot of us realize we're not going to the Olympics, especially at Eastern. There's very few of us who are like, we're going to, Larry still might be one of the only people that I know that had a chance to go into the Olympics. And he was out Richland Bomber just like me. But other than that, I mean, we know that the future is going to be whatever we're choosing. And so, we have a lot of microbiologists. We have a lot of business majors. I was the only poli-sci person on my track team, but there were a lot of communications people. And so it was, getting in the classroom, doing that networking. And sports really is a networking event. So this summer I'll be working at a law firm in downtown Seattle that a lot of people would absolutely dream to work there. It's a lifestyle where you're going to make decent amount of money and a decent amount of connections, which I don't really care about the money, but I care about the responsibility that comes with it. And one of the things they were most interested about me, they picked me out of all the states, like all the states, is that I was a student athlete. They loved that I did student government. That was something they really thought was cool, but they kept asking me questions about being a student athlete because they knew the tenacity, the hard work, the everything that goes into that. And that's just something that a lot of people just aren't. D1 athletes, there aren't many of them. If you have a chance to be one, it's worth trying. I mean, it is a hard thing, and it's even harder to get out of, but being a part of it's great. Sorry, I kind of answered a lot of questions.
No, it's okay. You're doing great. You're doing great. And it's funny that you mentioned Larry. Larry was our last interview yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And he said the first thing he says, make sure and interview. He didn't know at the time. He said, make sure and interview Dante. It's funny because we're interviewing him at 10, and he went off. He said, this kid is the most driven guy you've ever met. That's his words exactly.
That guy, and we were roommates last year. We've always been buddies. We've butted heads, obviously, as good friends do. But he's the picture show of somebody who was trying to find himself, but knew that he would get somewhere. And he's definitely gone many places. Man of many hats. He's been a lead singer of a band. He's obviously an Olympic athlete. He's not Olympic yet, but he will be. He's working on it. And happily engaged now as of a couple days ago. So I'm proud of that guy.
Very good. Very good. So kind of tying into the last question I asked you about people not seeing what happens behind the scenes. Is there a common misconception with student athletes from the general audience perspective?
I think it really depends on the student athlete. I think, okay. A lot of people think, I don't know how it is at every school. I can only speak for Eastern for the most part. Even being at UW, but just being in law school, you just don't get to see all the people. There's this idea that student athletes are a waste of money, waste of time, effort. They don't make revenue for the school. They don't really matter much. Which is a fair argument. I mean, there's an argument to be had there, but I think there's definitely, I know when I go talk to people who are out of school for the last 10, 20 years, I tell them Eastern, the first thing they say is Redfield, or, oh, your football team did amazing that year, or, oh, you did track and field. Like, there's definitely a lot of, it's the question of what is your value on sport? What value do you put on sport? And you're in sports literature. My capstone was in communication in sports. So, I took a similar class to this one that is being taken. And I've never been a huge sports person, which is funny because I'm a D1 athlete. I never watched sports growing up, but I do see how it connects people. And that's one of the most important things we can as a culture or civilization, is that connectivity is so important. And to be able to walk into a room and just talk about, oh, I hate the Seahawks. Oh, I love the Seahawks personally, but like, I hate the Seahawks. I love the Seahawks. And you guys will argue, but that you guys are sharing in that, that community that exists. I think that's so important. I think the misconception is just that athletics doesn't matter. It's something that, you get a full ride scholarship. First off, most student athletes don't get a full ride scholarship or scholarship at all. I did track for 4 years, and I never got a scholarship from the school. I got a lot of academic scholarships and opportunities from doing track and field, but I never got an actual scholarship from my track and field team. But, you know, as student body president, I had many people come up to me and like, why do you need to make money as student body president? You already get a full ride track scholarship. I'm like, no, I get nothing from track and field. That's why I worked the last 3 years, because I need to pay my dues. And they're like, well, why would you waste your time doing that? I'm like, because I want to be in good shape. I want to have that mental health, and I like that competitive aspect. I did miss team sports a lot. I mean, track is a team sport, but it's not a team sport. So a lot of answers right there.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great. Kind of going back on the subject of you know, the money, generating money for the campus and everything for that. Recently, the NCAA allowed its athletes to be able to make money on its name, image, and likeness. What's your stance on that? How do you feel about athletes getting the chance to make money while they're on campus?
100% in support. But I think there's a lot that goes into that question. I mean, I can just go from the legal matters. I don't think anybody should own your license. You should be able to sell your license and I want to go into IP law. That's one of the aspects I want to go into, intellectual property. And that is your intellectual property of who you are. And there's an argument to be made that the NCAA pays you with a scholarship, but that's such a small, a lot of those student athletes would be earning a scholarship just from the academic presence alone. They don't need yes, it's really great to have those scholarships, but I'm telling you, many of them, if they got into college, which is a big if, because a lot of these, you know, people come from really hard times. Sports is the only thing that really got them to college. But if they get to college, they have the tool sets as a student athlete to get any scholarship that they want. They have that tenacity, that drive. So to limit them by saying, oh, you have a scholarship, that's proper compensation for a contract, is ridiculous. It is not. They're making millions upon billions of dollars off of these students who are sacrificing their lives, literally sacrificing their lives to be out there on the field, especially football players and basketball players. As a track athlete, I got injured once because I threw a hammer and it hit me, which is a story into itself. I'm the only person in all of Eastern history to hit themselves with a hammer and almost break my arm. But you know, a lineman only has knees for so long until they're broken. The suicidal ideation that exists in student athletes that isn't even addressed, the many aspects to tell them you're the best, but you can't make money off of it. And then having to shorten their college career because they need to go make money in the NFL, NBA, or whatever before they can get a degree that will actually carry them somewhere one day down the road. I think it's ridiculous, especially since these people are taking care of their families. I think you also can take in the whole social aspect of most of these people are from underprivileged homes, you know, minorities who don't have that much money. And to tell them, you know, a lot of people make the extreme saying that it is modern day slavery. I wouldn't go to that extreme, but it is exploitation. And these people are 18 years old, 17 years old, and they're signing a contract that they're signing away something that they could be making millions of dollars just to make $10,000-$20,000 while working a full-time job. It is not equivalent.
To kind of piggyback on that, we had interviewed also Liz Quick, a former teammate of yours,
Awesome.
and she had said, I mean, her and Larry had nothing but good praise about you. But one of the good points to kind of tie in what you were saying is that she said, "Hey, I was in full scholarship for 2 years. Like they had Pac-12 champions her sophomore year. She got third place. She ends up winning her junior and senior year, but she said she still wasn't completely 100%. And in fact, it wasn't until after she had won her championship that they bumped her up to 80%. So
And that's 80%.
Yeah, I know. She says you don't realize.
Tuition.
Yeah, you don't realize it, but it's like that 20. You know how much that 20% comes out to, and then you expect me to work and pay that.
And is it 80%? Was it 80% tuition scholarship? Because
yeah, exactly.
That's not even taking housing in Seattle.
Right.
Which is the biggest part.
Yep. Okay, moving on here. We'll move on to this one. Would you consider yourself, and this is a tip of the hat to Mr. Edwards, he gave me this question. Would you consider yourself an athlete who loves to win or hates to lose?
That's hard. I mean, so I think it changes from sport to sport, because in basketball, I absolutely hate to lose. I absolutely hate to lose in basketball. But in track and field, you're not going to win a lot. I mean, I guess my senior year at Qualheim, I guess I won almost every meet I was at, which I definitely did not. I didn't appreciate it. I didn't care because it was easy once I was winning. But when I was losing every single meet, my freshman year of college, sophomore year of college, I think I maybe won one meet, maybe my whole college career. And it never was about the competitors. I didn't care that much about the competitors when it came to track. It was about beating my PRs, beating my personal records, and trying to beat myself. So that I never hated to lose, but I loved to win in track, and that was winning against myself, not against anybody else. Because that was the same thing with my senior year of high school, is because I could win every single meet, but I wasn't breaking my PR each one of those times. But whenever I beat my PR, that was when I was excited, happy. I have a picture of me my junior year getting a PR, make it to state. And I have me just like someone took photos of me jumping around the meet, going and hugging my friends, my mom and stuff like that, because I was just so ecstatic. And basketball, it's just like you lose a game, you lost for your school. Like you didn't lose for your teammates, you lost for your community in school, and that's what it felt like. In those varsity, but same thing with football. When go back into that locker room, everybody's upset. They're not upset because they lost. They're upset that the people out there counted on them, and they're like, Nyhold or Stroyford walks in and doesn't say, "You lost for each other." They say, "You lost for your community out there, and you need to get better." And so I think that's that's a unique Richland thing. I think though, we have that community, we have that fan base that doesn't exist at a lot of places. I think I took that for granted. I came to Eastern, a football game at Eastern's big, but like basketball games, track meets, they're not nearly as huge as they are at Richland High School.
Yep, you definitely win as a family and together in the losses too, for sure. Okay, so I lost my spot here. Sorry.
Fine.
Of all the different skills it takes to be a student athlete, okay, what would you say was the most valuable to you?
My mind. I mean, I'd say that about almost anything. It's about how you think. You can have all the raw strength in the world, but if you don't have the mind to both help yourself emotionally and intellectually, it doesn't matter. I mean, just practically, if you can't maintain a GPA, you can't compete. But when I mess up, my coach is telling me I'm doing something wrong, for me to have the communication skills, I'm just saying a bunch of different skills, but you can attribute everything to your mind, because technically your mind controls your whole body. But to have the communication skills to talk to your coach and be like, I don't understand what you're telling me, which a lot of people won't do. Like I can have my coach yell at me for the same thing 5 times in a row and then realize, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're telling me to do. And then once she explains it in a way that I understand, it's like, oh, well, I could have fixed that 5 attempts ago. Understanding that, then having the wherewithal to sit there and meditate on those little things. And, I remember high school state track meet. I was in the shower right before bed, before I was going to compete tomorrow. And I had a huge breakthrough on how I was supposed to throw tomorrow. And it helped me throw 20 feet past my PR. But I scratched every throw because I wasn't ready to throw that way yet. I scratched all 3 of my throws. And that haunted me for a long time, and pushed me. But eventually I had to realize it doesn't matter anymore. It's the past is the past. So your mind is about that emotional game of like getting rid of all those negativities, and then that mindfulness of like, these are the things I should be working on to improve, but not obsess over, but just to think about. And once you're actually in the ring or on the track or about to row or about to hike the ball, you're not thinking anymore. It's all that muscle memory, and you just go. There's no time to think. There's less than 2 seconds in most plays in most sports. That it just that's the changing factor. Those less than a second almost, that really makes that impact. So if you can think faster in that 1 second than your opponent, you'll probably win.
Larry kind of hit on the same thing that you said, and it was kind of what I'm getting from you is that you learn about a lot about life from sports. A lot of the skills that you learn in the sport, a lot of the mental game, a lot of the preparation, it does translate to those real life scenarios. Is kind of what I'm getting from you there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's see here. Okay, your college, your student athlete career is over. So now you're moving on to law school. And what opportunities were created for you from being a student athlete? Obviously, you've said, you've already hit on that. You've made a lot of connections, meeting people and so maybe go into maybe a story or a detail about a time or currently when, as a direct result from you being a student athlete, an opportunity was created for you.
I would say one of the biggest things was, I hate to attribute this to this, but I mean, making it to student body president at Eastern was probably because I was an athlete. I mean, I knew a lot of people, and I really got my foot. I campaigned my heart out, and I really worked hard. But the thing that got my foot in the door is like, we've never had a student athlete ever in all of Eastern history beyond student government. And I didn't run on that platform. I never said I'm running as a student athlete. Like that's not the type of person I am. I run off of who I am as a person, not off of what I've done. But I think, to have the breadth of people that just said, let's support Dante. I had Lynn Hickey, who is our brand new, gosh, I forgot the name of it, athletic director, AD. I kept saying attorney general in my head because I'm so used to law school. I had, my coaches, all my athletes that were just behind me, like they voted for the first time. Like, you didn't get student athletes to vote. That just isn't something that happened. Usually it's somebody in fraternity and sorority life. I was the first student body president in 12 years that wasn't part of Greek life. Some said ever. We weren't completely sure if we could figure that one out. But I was pretty much a part of a fraternity. It was just a fraternity of athletes. So I'll attribute, it doesn't matter how I had really great friends in the track team, Macy Whites, Larry, all these really great people. Those are just the bombers that were there. Bridget Underwood. But it doesn't matter if you know them or not. They know that you're a brother or sister to them because you're a student athlete with them. So it's great.
Yeah, Sherman Alexie says that we're broken down by tribes, but he's not talking about like Native Americans and white. He says that we're broken down into tribes of people for our connections and what we both have in common.
That's Imagine Communities, right?
That was actually part-time Indian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, okay, there's a younger you sitting in front of you. Let's say you jump in the DeLorean, okay, you go back in time, Back to the Future, you open the door, there's younger Dante, okay, or let's just say there's a kid about ready to embark on the same journey that you have. What valuable advice are you giving that person?
Okay, what age, can you give me an age of who I'm talking to?
Let's say senior in high school.
Ah, dang.
Like, let's say this, what is it, May? It's almost June. So like they see the graduation coming up. And so what valuable advice would you give yourself or somebody about ready to embark on that same journey?
Oh, man. So much personal advice that I won't say here that I would want to give.
School rated though.
Oh, for sure. I would say, one thing I didn't do is I didn't drink or do any drugs or anything like that. And so I'd tell them to continue down that path because that will be really beneficial to me. I've seen so many of my friends that have now after college that are like, I wish I'd never done that. And I'm like, I'm glad that I didn't do that. Maybe I would suggest to him to maybe get more involved in a religious community. Just not for the sense that, religion is its own thing in the sense of, all the aspects that can go into that. But I think for the aspect of that community that just is there for you is really strong. To build those relationships, I would also tell myself to probably, appreciate my family a little bit more. I always loved my family, but I just didn't give them as much time as I probably could. And, I think, life is short and you kind of lose people faster than you ever expect them to do. And I think a lot of people are realizing that right now. So, care about your family members, talk to them more, and really generally care about them and show them that you care about them. So.
I remember somebody saying that Mother's Day shouldn't be one day, it's like there's Father's Day shouldn't be one day. You know what I mean? Like you should definitely.
I think it's the siblings we forget about. I think it's honestly
Right.
Our siblings is who we forget.
Your best friends,
Yeah.
My sister, she's 2 years younger than me. I went to high school with her. My brother that I work with, he's 9 years older than me. I see him more as a father figure than a brother figure, So my sister definitely, I'll call her up and it shouldn't be one day, if you once you get a wife, buy her flowers on her anniversary, but surprise her halfway to the anniversary with flowers and see what happens. All right, so hey, you've done a great job. You've answered all my questions. Tell us, what are you up to now? What do you got going on in your life?
I am right now. I am, I'm getting ready to finish my first year of law school, which is something I just never, it's just something that I'm getting a little emotional right now. It's just really great, being this far into my career and, looking at, Qualheim, somebody who really pushed me. We have a really amazing job opportunity this summer that I'm really excited for. It's only gonna be 3 weeks long because of the, COVID and everything, but hopefully I'll get involved in a political campaign of some sorts because my dream is to go into politics. That's always been my dream. I want to give back as much as I possibly can. So hopefully, I just found out that I'm probably have my job again next summer. So that's really good to hear. And then, if both years work out, I'll probably have this job when I graduate, which is amazing. And it's a pathway to, that success that I really crave to make a difference. So hopefully maybe one day I go back to Tri-Cities or to Spokane or somewhere like that, where I feel like they need me more than Seattle does. I really love Seattle a lot, but being a politician in Seattle is not going to make the impact as I want to in somewhere like Tri-Cities or Spokane. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but those communities have given me more than I could ever ask for, and they don't even realize it. So hopefully I can continue to do that.
Well, Dante, I want to thank you again for taking the time to be with us. I mean, just talking to you, this is the first time I've actually sat down and talked with you, and you already got my vote. So you run a platform as good as you are as a human being. You're going to have no problem finding success in your future, young man.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
All right. Well, Dante, again, appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. We'll, the kids are going to see the recording of this, and they're going to be writing some articles on you. So I'll have to send you one of the completed ones when it's all
That'd
finished.
Yep. Yeah. Well,
again,
thank you all.
Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and keep up the good work.
Stay safe out there, everybody.
All right.
Go Bombers.
Go Bombers.
Go Bombers.
Yeah.